What would you do if your income stopped tomorrow? Ethan Williams was 57 years old, living in a quiet neighborhood in Mississippi. For 32 years, he worked as a senior manager in a consulting firm. He was dependable, loyal, the kind of employee who believed hard work guaranteed security. His wife, Laura, 54, ran their home with quiet strength. She knew every neighbor by name, baked pies for church gatherings, and believed stability came from routine. Their son, James, 28, had finally found his footing as a trainee in an IT company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. One Tuesday morning, Ethan opened his email at 9:14 a.m. Due to economic restructuring, he didn't need to read more. After 32 years, he was being let go. No warning, no negotiation. He packed his desk into a small cardboard box. A framed family photo. A pen set he received for 20 years of service. A coffee mug that said, "World's Best Manager." It felt heavy in his hands. That night, Ethan sat at the table longer than usual. James noticed first. "Dad? Everything okay?" Ethan cleared his throat. "I lost my job." The room felt different immediately. That night, Ethan lay awake staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly. For the first time in years, he felt unsure of tomorrow. 2 weeks later, James walked in earlier than usual. His shoulders looked heavy. "They're cutting costs," he said quietly. "I can leave, or accept 50% salary." Ethan closed his eyes. One income gone. The second, cut in half. The mortgage didn't shrink. Groceries didn't become cheaper. The electricity bill still arrived. Savings would last 6 months, maybe less. The security they built over decades suddenly looked fragile, and the question no one said out loud hung in the air. What happens when both generations fall at the same time? The changes started quietly. Cable subscription canceled. Weekend dinners out stopped. Laura began comparing prices at 3 grocery stores. Ethan canceled his professional membership without telling anyone. The electricity bill stayed on the kitchen counter for 2 days before Ethan opened it. He had never delayed opening bills before. At night, he whispered into the dark, "Maybe I'm too old for this." Laura turned toward him. "You are not finished," she said softly. Days passed. Applications were sent. No replies. Ethan refreshed his inbox every hour. Nothing. James accepted the 50% salary cut. Late at night, he stared at job listings, wondering if he had already failed at 28. Small arguments started. "Turn off the lights!" "Do we really need that?" Stress doesn't shout. It leaks. And slowly, it fills the room. One humid Mississippi evening, Ethan sat alone in the garage. The air smelled like dust and engine oil. "I gave that company my life," he said when James joined him. 32 years, and they replaced me in a week. James sat beside him on an old stool. "Dad, maybe this isn't the end. You always solved problems for companies. What if you help smaller businesses here? They're struggling too." Ethan looked at him. For the first time in weeks, something moved inside him. Not hope, but possibility. Laura stepped into the garage. "I've been thinking," she said. "People always ask for my pies. Maybe I can start selling from home." That night, they sat around the table again, but this time with a notebook. James wrote at the top, "What do we still have? Dad, you have decades of experience and strong contacts. Mom, people trust you and love your cooking. And I have tech skills to help us build something online." They made 3 decisions. Reduce expenses by 30%. Create at least one new income stream. Ethan offered free consulting sessions to small local shop owners. Most ignored him. Laura posted photos of her pies in local Facebook groups. James built a simple website late at night after work. 3 weeks later, Ethan earned $300, helping a small store reduce unnecessary expenses. It wasn't close to his old salary, but when he placed that check on the table, Laura smiled in a way he hadn't seen in months. They weren't stuck anymore. They were trying. By month 4, savings were thin. They made a painful decision. Sell the second car. James began taking public transport. Ethan accepted freelance projects that paid far less than his previous salary. It hurt his pride. But pride doesn't pay bills. One evening, Laura cried quietly in the kitchen, not because they were failing, but because she was tired of pretending to be strong all the time. Ethan saw her. He didn't say anything. He just hugged her. Sometimes, overcoming adversity isn't about solutions. It's about staying together. 6 months later, one of Ethan's small clients recommended him to a regional business group. They needed restructuring help. After 2 meetings, they offered him a long-term contract. Laura's pies now had repeat weekly customers. James, after upgrading his skills daily, landed a remote IT role with better pay than before. Together, their income exceeded what Ethan once earned alone. They had learned something deeper than financial survival. They had learned resilience. One evening, Ethan stood outside watching the Mississippi sky turn orange. "Losing my job was the hardest moment of my life," he said quietly. Laura smiled. "And maybe the most important," James added. "We didn't just survive, we changed." They were no longer afraid of recession because they understood something powerful. Security is not in a job. It's in your ability to adapt. That is real. Overcoming adversity. If you are struggling right now, listen carefully. Job loss is not the end. Financial pressure is not your identity. Recession is not your future. Tonight, before you sleep, write down what you can still do, not what you lost. Cut one unnecessary expense. Learn one skill this week. Take one uncomfortable action. Because adversity will come for everyone, but success belongs to those who refuse to stay down. The real question is, will you let adversity define you? Or will you turn it into your comeback story? Your answer begins today.